only the Father can give. 5 husbands later, we don't know how they departed her company. The text is silent. We don't know, but perhaps they fit the John Henry profile. But somehow she discerns that he who met her at Jacob's well has something she so desperately needs. She needs new life. In effect, Jesus says to her, you cannot have life until you've offered me your best worship. Jesus says to her in verse 23, the hour is coming and is now here when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. Traditional sermons usually have 3 points. This one has 1. All I've come to say this morning is when you have entrusted your life to God in worship, new life is possible. And God's freedom for you is assured. When you entrust God with your life in worship, to honor is to acknowledge a person's right to respect. We honor the dead, the memory of our forebears. We attend funerals, and not always is it the case that we are intimately acquainted with the deceased, have intimate relationship with the honoree, but we simply show up because it's the right thing to do. To give homage is to honor a person with thy substance, to honor them with tribute. A kingly figure expects praise and tribute. Deference is different. Deference is to yield to a person's status. It's the apprentice who takes the posture of apprentice to a trusted sage. And reverence holds together dying love and respect. Obeisance is an act or a gesture that we perform in an act of submission in humility. Worship implies all of this. To worship the Father in the way commended by Jesus is to find one's participation in a dialogical reality, a holy conversation between creator and creature, an exchange where something is relinquished so that something else can be esteemed. Worship is a dynamic exchange, giving something up so that somebody else can get the praise. Worship God is a dynamic exchange. True worship, says Howard Thurman, is always met with a glad surprise. Now, a glad surprise is when you've forgotten your keys and your door is locked, and you move to the back door and you discover that the latch is off and you can get in. That's a glad surprise. A glad surprise is when you've labored tediously getting your paper written and your flash drive dies. But you discover later on that you had a backup copy. That's a glad surprise. True worship is an act of the Spirit. Life is affirmed in the worship experience. Idols are toppled in worship. Worship has its own arithmetic. To worship anything other than God is always division and subtraction. To worship the Father is always addition and multiplication. Why worship something that takes life instead of giving life to us? Jesus says to this Samaritan woman, I am the living water. Everyone who drinks the water in your bucket will be thirsty again. But those who drink the water that I will give them will never be thirsty. Jews and Samaritans were faithful to Scripture, the same Scripture. They read the same text, but they believed in practicing their religious faith differently. And so when Jesus meets this woman at the well, they know that they should not be talking. The conversation comes and goes something like, why are you talking to me? You know that Jews and Samaritans don't converse. I know your history. I know what you need. You need more than what you came for. Oh, see, I see you're a prophet. You need only what the Father can give. Let me have some of that living water. You really know little about worship, sister. But our ancestors worshiped here on this mountain. You Jews believe that true worship only happens in Jerusalem. You are talking land. I'm talking water. Woman, believe me, now is not time for foolishness. The hour is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. Place and space for worship lose centrality in this text. Religious categories that we erect begin to become obsolete because the last things are already underway. True worship is not shaped by place. True worship is shaped by God's own character. To worship in spirit and truth is to worship in God's character whenever you can and wherever you are. And so she trades in her bucket. The Spirit of Christ brings her to a point of recognition, the place of acknowledgement, and after a conversation with the Master, she understands as she never has before that when you worship God, you must hand God your bucket. When you worship God, you must give all you've got. Have you ever been to church without a dime in your pocket? And you reach in and all you extract is lint? Worship anyway. You know offering time is coming. You have nothing in your pocket, worship God anyway. All you can give is a smile in worship. Give that as a form of work. When we entrust our lives to God and worship, new life is possible. And true freedom is assured. So I've discovered something here, that we've all have a train to catch. The good news is that when we worship God, our sacrifice is always met with a gracious privilege. And that privilege is new life. And so I've discovered that stress brings life to death. But I've also discovered that the strength of God brings new life. Worship always yields a gracious gift. Scientists are discovering that stress not only contributes to loss of life, it contributes to loss of memory and the diminishment of our thinking and creative capacities. If you want to stick around, avoid that same old well. Same old negative transcript, that same old death dealer called stress. Get quiet before the Lord. Worship